ठीक है।
एक इंसान है, उसने उसको गोली मार दी।
यहाँ पे
उसने बोला कि ये शायद मुस्लिम नहीं है, उसने उसको गोली मार दी।
बैठो बैठो थोड़ा बताइए हुआ पति को मार दिया।
The world knows it. It's the army which runs or controls Pakistan. This democracy is a sham. They are going with a begging bowl to the IMF and then spending huge amounts of money only to create terror and killing machines. Why is there so much howling about it across the border? What were they expecting? That we'll send flowers to those who killed our people?
It is not unprecedented but yet rare to have multi-party, all-party delegations go to world capitals to put India's position forward. I'm being joined by a politician, a leader who has been in many of these multi-party delegations in the past, and in a very rare moment where you see parties come together. He's a consensus candidate for the Congress when it comes to the all-party delegations that are going to the world capitals. Anand Sharma, thank you so much for joining us, sir. This is quite interesting that we've had so many to and fro's when it comes to who's going to go from which party, but you came out as a consensus candidate. One, the decision to be a part of a multi-party delegation, and what is it that you aim to achieve?
You see, the decision is, of course, that of the government in finality, but it was the Congress leadership, both Rahul Gandhi and Congress President Kharge, who had given the names, as has been the standard established practice and norm. And I thank them. I thank also the government. Happy that there is a meeting of minds. We are not going to be, in today's situation, distracted even for a moment where we are going, and it is for what purpose we are going. That is important. Therefore, the composition of the delegations, when you said that all party, there have been initiatives in the past, but not on such a large scale. The leaders of the opposition have been roped in by the government in the past, by successive prime ministers, from Indira Gandhi, Rajiv Gandhi, Narasimha Rao, even Dr. Manmohan Singh. There were occasions. What India needs in this present crisis is a robust, bipartisan consensus, which was demonstrated very strongly when India was targeted, the Pahalgam terror attack, and India's response. Because India has been, for decades, a targeted victim of organized terrorism from across the border. That's from Pakistan, which undoubtedly is the epicenter. It's not only that it is India which is threatened, yes, directly so, but they are a scourge for the world, the terrorism as such. Whether it's what happens to us, if you look at the list of terror attacks, India has acted, always responded with firmness and maturity, and it is time that the world is sensitized how serious the threat is. For long, our resolution is pending in the United Nations for a comprehensive global convention against terrorism. Perhaps the time has come. The world has to think. There cannot be any selective approach in fighting terror.
Perhaps the time has indeed come to even define terrorism where the world is divided. But for our audience to know that you were part of a government that battled Pakistan during 26/11 as Information and Broadcasting Minister, as Minister of State for External Affairs. It was an uphill task then, it is an uphill task now. Why?
Well, the two situations are different. That terror attack went on for a while, and citizens of other countries of the world were killed. Therefore, the media, the televisions of the world took it to the world capitals. Naturally, there was an outrage in our country, but a global outrage too. Here, they chose Pahalgam. This was a different attack because for the first time before the world, for us it was not the first time because Chitty Singhpura had happened when the Sikhs were massacred.
That's true.
So here, they singled out Indian citizens, innocent people who were holidaying there, young couples, but based on religion and killed in cold blood. And that the world must know. India has still been restrained, I will say, in its response. The initial response was only targeted to destroy the headquarters of the two terror outfits. They keep on changing names. Today they may say there is a resistance front, but we know who's behind all these three. They are sheltered, nurtured, protected by Pakistan. There is a clear signature and footprint. That's what made India act militarily too. But we never went for escalation. We want to tell the world India stands for peace. But India cannot also remain quiet when such attacks take place. What I would say is important. In democracies across the world, there are opinions which political parties and leaders have. Like in India too. But at the same time, when a nation is attacked, India has always stood as one and spoken in one voice, which we did this time too. Every political party gave unequivocal support to the government's action. Total solidarity with the Indian armed forces. And that message has gone beyond the shores of India, not only to Pakistan or to the other world capitals too, that this is how serious India is about what has been done to their people and their citizens.
I see the composition of the delegations quite diverse. Clearly, the center wants to project unity in diversity, but also with a lot of depth. You come with experience of handling a terror attack as big as 26/11. Hitting out at Bahawalpur, Muridke, how did that resonate with you? The fact that these are places you've been talking about time and again.
It is good that it happened. It was time. We had to deliver a message. And we are proud of the Indian Armed Forces. They did so correctly with precision. Why is there so much howling about it across the border? What were they expecting? That we'll send flowers to those who killed our people. So every Indian was at least relieved, not celebrating that yes, but saluting the army, our Air Force, our Navy, that they have acted.
So when you go with the delegation, what is it that you personally are going to take to convince the international community that it is no longer time for neutrality? That if there are countries that are standing by Pakistan, it is time that these countries, you're going to very important nations, to including South Africa and Egypt, that they need to take a position, that that this is the time, not for neutrality. Terrorism has no color, no creed, that they need to take a position.
You're right, and that's what we will try to inform the leaders we interact with, engage with, about the reality, about what the Pakistan's modus operandi has been. In any case, the world knows it. It's the army which runs or controls Pakistan. Its democracy is a sham. And that needs to be exposed. On one hand, they are going with a begging bowl to the IMF and then spending huge amounts of money only to create terror and killing machines. So to sensitize the global leadership. So it's a global outreach. And wherever our delegations are going and where we are going, that will be primarily our objective and our focus. Because the world gets the information through the media, their own national medias, the reports which filter across the frontiers. But what is our view? What is our understanding? What has been our experience? Not from 1, 2, 3, 4, but dozens of attacks. Attack on our parliament, attack on Udhampur. I refer to Chitti Singhpura, Uri, Poonch, Pulwama, now Pahalgam. How long will this continue? The world has to rein in Pakistan. It is important that Pakistan should be isolated and condemned for state sponsor of terror.
So Pakistan is following India's footsteps. We are sending multi-party delegations. Pakistani Prime Minister...
Are they sending Imran Khan, who is in jail? Multi-party delegation would require them.
That's a very important point you make, because PTI,
So where is the democracy
PTI
there?
have actually raised concerns,
Yes.
saying that you're only sending Bilawal, your ally. Where is PTI in a multi-party delegation?
You see, Pakistan in any case, if they can try and copy India, but India is the largest democracy on the planet. It's a constitutional democracy. It's a rule-based and rule-governed country. There cannot be any comparison. Let them try. That is their job. But what we have to do collectively as a nation is to not only inform and sensitize, as I said, but to mobilize the global opinion against terrorism and for peace.
You've said you're going with absolute focus, but I have to ask you this. A lot of domestic politics at play. Do you think that will impact outcome of your meetings abroad? They must surely be watching what's happening in India when it comes to questions being raised, questions being posed to the government, which opposition should be doing, but...
Which democracy does not have dialogue, questions and debate? That's part of democracy. Questions are always asked, and the onus is always on the government of the day to respond to those questions. And we have, as I mentioned, being a multi-party parliamentary democracy, Parliament would be the right forum. Not only the standing committees of the Parliament, which have been informed, so I'm told, but the Parliament as a whole eventually will discuss it. So there's no big issue or deal. People understand that what does not happen in America itself, or in Germany, or in England. If there is no questions and no discussion, that only happens in authoritarian or dictatorship countries.
Interesting. When you were in power, you were in government, you had more support coming in from America, obviously because Americans had died in 26/11. We don't see that kind of support coming in from DC this time around. Has Trump changed the geopolitics of this region where Pakistan and India seem to be hyphenated again?
Well, that hyphenation India cannot accept. And since you asked about President Trump, it's not about this region. He's disrupted and upturned the global order, which is a very serious issue. Because multilateralism is under siege and under grave threat. That's where America has to wake up. The entire world has to wake up. President Trump being the leader of the most powerful country, has a greater responsibility. At the same time, India is a sovereign and proud nation. We have to uphold and protect our supreme national interest. And one thing to my mind is very clear, and that should be the position. India cannot be dictated to.
That's a very important message. Resonates well with what the government has also been saying. But, sir, I have to go back to the question I asked you earlier. If Pakistan manages to secure high-level meetings in Washington, D.C., where will that leave India?
Well, that's for the Washington, D.C. to decide, American leadership. I'm not saying we don't decide their diary and whom they meet. But we have a good relationship, a strategic partnership of enormous importance with America. And I'm sure that America also is conscious of that. It's not only economic partnership, it's strategic partnership. The kind of exchange that we have had. The very fact that in 2008, we reached, after very painstaking negotiations, a historic breakthrough in the nuclear agreement, where India was reintegrated and accepted with respect in the global mainstream for nuclear cooperation. There's high technology transfers, joint initiatives being taken. So America will remain conscious of that what India is. And you referred also to some other countries and what happened in 2008. Yes, many of the P5 countries stood up. And I remember there was a meeting in Paris, the 14th of December 2008, after the attack.
After 26/11.
And there was the foreign ministers of all major countries were present there, all P5 countries, of course, included. And there was tremendous support for India. We explained our position, but we had to. There was a strong Pakistani delegation also present there. And that was a special moment to expose them before the world, and which we did.
But sir, today things have changed, drastically so. Challenges are many. Let's talk about the countries you're going to. Egypt, Qatar, Ethiopia and South Africa. We'll talk about South Africa in a different context as well. But Qatar, the Gulf nations, and how they have come out seeking de-escalation, being very neutral. Some of them in the OIC have also in the past sided with Pakistan on issues of Kashmir. Is it going to be difficult?
Well, there have always been some countries which are identified. There are some countries which are Pakistan backers or allies, like Turkey. We've known that. But at the same time, there are many countries which understand India's position.
Yes.
And they are not at all taking a strident position against India. Even in the case of this terror attack, they have condemned.
Yes.
To say de-escalation, fine, that is not an offensive word to me. Nobody is saying we are not a warmongering country too. We didn't impose the situation. We did not invite. We were compelled, we were forced, we were left with no option. So, and from day one, Indian armed forces also have been saying, I remember the first press conference, so the foreign secretary of the DGMO, that is non-escalatory. So the escalation came from Pakistan's side, which had to be responded to, which was responded to very firmly, that I must say.
As somebody who's been a part of the ministry, there are so many delegations going to such important nations, but I have to ask you about our neighborhood. The fact that there's no delegation going to the neighborhood, is that a miss? Is that something that the government should look at and focus on?
You see, well, that's a very good question. I'm sure that we have friendly countries in the neighborhood. A neighborhood will get adequately informed, surely. It's not a question of sending a delegation. but we have very able high commissioners and ambassadors. And if there is need, it's for the government to take the call to send any envoy, which the prime ministers in the past have done. There are always channels open. India has done so in the past. And yes, there are complexities. We know what has happened in Bangladesh. Even if we send someone, it's not going to change their attitude.
Yes.
But the others do understand us. It's the larger world opinion has to back India. I do not say there are countries here in the region, in our extended neighborhood, I'm not talking only of South Asia, who understand India very much and who support India. You refer to the OIC, in the recent OIC meeting, the host country itself, the Indonesia, and many other countries thwarted the moves of Turkey and others to have any strong resolution critical of India. So this has happened after the military conflict and the recent developments. It happened last week or a few days ago.
Before I move to a very important subject that you have focused all your life on, just one question on Asim Munir, a general in uniform making divisive comments. For the first time, Jay Shankar in Netherlands said and connected his comments, Asim Munir's divisive Hindu-Muslim comments, to the Pahalgam terror attack. And now he's self-appointed himself Field Marshal.
I think these are the dynamics of Pakistan politics also. Maybe the general can answer. It's the general who has appointed himself or elevated. The government had rubber stamped as they were asked to. Maybe to take him beyond reproach, so that if there are changes in Pakistan and an incarcerated leader comes out, so what will happen? So we don't know. These are their internal issues. But he has not done anything except to make an extremely hateful, divisive speech. He is the first army general who has used such language. And what has he achieved for Pakistan, even in this military conflict? Yes, we lost precious lives in the terror attack. Subsequently, there has been damage. But Pakistan, if they think that they can come out looking good, no, they are pockmarked.
Finally, sir, for somebody who's been a part of the anti-apartheid movement, you're going to South Africa. South Africa today has been fighting a different battle altogether, but a very important one at that. And that has to do with Gaza and Palestine, taking America, Israel to the International Court, Criminal Court. It's a very important statement. And the situation in Gaza is quite difficult. How are you looking? What's your reading on what's to become of Palestine? What's to become of this movement that only a few countries have taken on? And now we're looking at the Western countries like UK, France, Canada coming out openly, disassociating themselves from Israel, cutting off trade ties with Israel. That's
What
an
has
important development.
happened in Gaza is a crime against humanity. I have no hesitation to say that. We in India, all political parties, spoke in sympathy with Israel after that October 7 attack. We condemn Hamas. But does that mean collective retribution and punishment against innocent men, women and children? So that is what has outraged. Now, one expected a country like America, which speaks for human rights, which has that Statue of Liberty, to intervene. Unfortunately, that has not happened. But at the same time, the conscience of nations has not died. Yeah, and it is, as it is demonstrated in the mass rallies which have been happening across Europe, across Africa, across Asia. And our position has been very clear. We and India have to keep on reminding ourselves and our people that when the first declaration was made to divide the land of Palestine, India was not a free nation, but the world leader who spoke was Mahatma Gandhi. India took a very clear position when Israel was founded, also so that for a secure state of Palestine, a sovereign state, with East Jerusalem as its capital. That has been a position which the world accepted. That is the position which the United Nations has. Congress Party recently in its Ahmedabad session, the working committee statement had very clear and resolution clearly reaffirmed that position. India also is bound by the position which we have taken at the United Nations. Unfortunately, the United Nations today and the other bodies have been enfeebled. Because what I said earlier, that the Anglo-Saxon world had created the post-World War II institutions and the multilateral order, which was always never fully inclusive or representative, because you have a UN Security Council which excludes the entire continent of Africa, the largest democracy on the planet, that is the Republic of India, which excludes a reunified Germany or Japan, or Latin America, a country like Brazil. So you can't say that it is representative of the contemporary world realities. But still, at least there was a multilateral order. On a rotational basis, temporary 2-year seats were there, which is not adequate or enough. But now, time perhaps has come for leaders of the world to stand up and save multilateralism. A weakened United Nations, a divided Security Council cannot restore order or protect people from being butchered or massacred.
On that note, Anand Sharma, thank you so much for joining us here on the network.